Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Rachel Klein, and I will be your presenter today. Today we are talking about the Enter Donation screen in the Donations module. And we're going to look at entering donations, choosing a batch code, how to choose a giving account, set different orders for giving accounts, how to edit a batch, and so forth. I'm going to open up the donations module, and from here, right in the middle of the screen, you can click on enter donations, or you can go up to the top under donations and click on enter donations from there. Both buttons are going to take you to the same place, so it's up to you which button you click to get into the screen. So couple things to keep in mind about this screen specifically. When you are entering donations, the donations module uses the donation date or the date occurred as the driving force for what donations are grouped together into a batch. So, for example, if you use a donation date of today, enter a bunch of donations, post them, and then tomorrow you come in and you also use 8/8/2024 as your date of donations and post those. Because they share the same donation date or the same date occurred, after both batches are posted, they are going to lump together as one batch because they share the same date. Okay, so keep in mind, if you're working on a batch and you post something and then you find one more check that you forgot to input a couple days later, simply go back into enter donations, use that same donation date of the original batch you posted, enter that one gift, post that one gift, and then because it's sharing a date of donations that already exists for that day, that one gift is going to lump up with the others that you entered for that same date. Okay, I get a couple calls like that a year where somebody will say, oh, I forgot to enter something. Simply use the same date you want it to lump up with the other batch, and then it will do that. Okay, now that being said, or I should say that leads us to talking about batch codes. So I'm going to go ahead and just choose today's date for our example. You can always go back and choose a previous date if you wish. It will let you use a future date. Not that you would need to, but it will let you. You can always use today's date by just hitting the Today button down at the bottom, or you can hit the down arrow and go back to a Sunday date if you wish. You could do a Monday date. Again, it's completely up to you. I'm going to go with today. Now, that brings us on to the batch code box. The batch code box has a little light switch. If you don't want to use batch codes, you can hit the little light switch. It turns red, and that turns this field off. It grays it out, okay? Click on the light switch again. It turns that field back on. There are 3 other light switch fields on this screen. So if you're ever working in here and you're like, I can no longer type in the donation comments box, it's all grayed out. That's probably because your little light switch got bumped and it got turned off. Simply click it, turn it back on to green, and you can click back in the field. Okay? Batch codes. I'm going to hit the down arrow here, and I'm going to show you what batch codes we currently have. Non-cash giving, we have a 9 o'clock service, we have online giving, we have some different Vanco things in here, and then a Wednesday night service batch code as well. The only time you need to use a batch code is if you have donations on the same day that you want to keep separate from each other. So like I was saying about the date, if you choose a date, 8/8 as your date, post a bunch of donations, and then later also post donations on 8/8. If you don't use a batch code, those are going to bunch up and become one batch. If you want to keep things separate on the same date, use a batch code. Perfect example of that would be worship services. If you want to keep your 9 a.m. donations from, let's say last Sunday, the 4th, separate from your 10:30 a.m. service, then you need to use a batch code field. If you do not care about keeping those donations separate, don't worry about the batch code. If you're using an online giving company to track donations and you want to keep those donations as a separate batch from your regular Sunday offering, use a batch code for your online giving donations. And all that's going to do, it's going to allow you to keep the same date, but keep the gifts entered in those two batches with the different batch codes separated. Okay, pretty straightforward. If you don't do online giving and you don't care about keeping your services separate, or you only have one service, you do not have to use a batch code. Simply turn it off. Okay. If you want to create a new batch code, just hit the little plus sign here. That's going to open up the code and description box where you can then make a new one and add it to the list. If you have used a batch code previously, it is not going to let you delete it. Okay. All right, so let's go down here to the giver box. You have an inactive checkbox. If you ever have someone who makes a donation that has previously left the church, maybe they moved out of town, or they go away, they went away to college, so you marked them inactive, but they're sending donations back. Whatever the situation might be, if you have someone that's since been marked inactive and you need to enter a donation to them, check the inactive box, and that's then going to bring up any of those people in red that have previously been marked inactive. Okay? It doesn't only show you inactive, it just, by checking this, it just includes those inactive people. Okay? If you're not worried about entering donations for inactive people, I would suggest leaving that box unchecked. It's going to make things a lot easier, less people to sift through when you go to look for someone. In the search box, you can type first name, last name, or both, or you can do giver number if you use giver number. That leads us over here to the sort by giver number box. If I type in the letter B right now, and I do not have this sort by giver number box checked, it's going to sort my list in alphabetical order. Okay. If I check sort by giver number and I type a number in, it is then going to sort this list in giver number order. Even if I put in a letter, it's still going to sort this list in giver number order. So it's going to take everyone who has a B in their name and then sort them numerically. Okay, so I would suggest if you don't use giver numbers, don't check that box. If you do use giver numbers and you want to use the number when typing it in to search for someone, then I would suggest keeping that box checked. Okay. Something else here, this giving and pledging box. This can be a really, really handy tool when you're entering donations. If I go to type someone in and I select them, as soon as I select them, it is going to show me, based on the giver in the box, any pledging and non-pledging information. And it's going to have it broken down in these different columns. This is a really nice, easy way, if you are a pledging church, to see who's a pledger and how much they've given towards their pledge. And again, if I come in here, I choose someone else, it's then going to show me. So Nina, because I've selected her, we can see she's not a pledger. We only have a non-pledged giving line, and we can see that she hasn't given anything yet so far. So if you want to use that box, simply hit this little blue pledging ribbon, and that box is going to pop up for you to give you a play-by-play of each person that you've selected. If you go to type someone's name in here and they don't come up, no Rachel. Well, let's make sure. Check inactive. Try her again. Nope, definitely not here. You can go over to the right, hit the little green plus sign, and then you can decide if you want to enter them in the membership module as a visitor, or as a donations group giver, or as a donations individual giver. Keep in mind, this record is going to exist in membership and carry over into donations. These two options are only going to exist over here on the donation side. They will not be in membership. So I would suggest if you have a new person, a visitor that made a donation, I would enter them as a membership individual under visitors. If you have someone who's given and you know this is not their church home, they are not coming back, maybe it's just a memorial donation, maybe you had a big fundraiser, whatever, you can enter them just in donations, and then they won't clutter up your membership side of things. Okay. Let's go back to Evan. Okay. Over here, this is the amount, the total amount of the donation that they have made. I'm going to put that total amount in that box. That then brings us to this giving distribution. I will be honest, I do not see this used a lot. But what this allows you to do is create different distributions for donations. So if you are a pledging church and you choose according to pledge as your giving distribution, it's going to default when you select a giver that is a pledger to choose their pledge account when you get down here to choose the funds or the accounts that they want their money to go to. Okay. If you choose manual distribution, this allows you to then set the account order for the accounts that show up in the list. So by coming down here and clicking this little dot, dot, dot button, this allows us to set the order that we see the accounts in the drop list here when we go to choose. So right now, the very first account in the list is general fund. If we come through here, and we get down to general fund, that's going to pop up first. Say we're doing a big fundraiser for Save the Animals, I can hit my little order giving accounts button here. In this window, I can move my Save the Animals account first. And then when I get down here, make sure manual distribution is set here. And then when you get down to pick your accounts, that is then going to pull up the accounts in the order that you have here in your order giving account screen, okay? And then once your Save the Animals drive's done, you can pop it down there, or let's say Easter's coming and we're gonna move Lent and Easter up here higher in the list. You can do that. And as long as it's on manual distribution, it is going to list those out properly. There you go. Okay. So that is giving distribution. You also have an option in here to set up a custom distribution. Here's an example that I set up for you guys. If you want to take out of 100 and split up people's donations to different accounts, you can do that here in this custom distribution. So by having this selection, each time you enter someone's gift, it's going to automatically pre-fill those accounts for you. So if say 20% of everybody's donation needs to go to a certain giving account, you could set that up as a custom distribution if you wanted to. Not something I see a lot, but it is there if you need it. Payment method, you can turn this on or off. You have a light switch for that. Here are your different payment methods. In-kind donations and gifts of stock, we have a webinar on those. If you want to get more information about those two items, feel free to do that on the Resource Center. If you choose check, you have to put in a check number. It is a requirement. If you don't know what the check number is, you can put some X's in there if you wish. Donation comments, again, feel free to do that if you want. I'm going to go ahead and put this back to manual because I think that's the one I see the most. And then down here at the bottom, these are your line items, okay? These are the different pots people are wanting their money to go to. You can hit the down arrow and pick something different. If they are a pledger, in the pledge range column, it will have the word current. So if I choose this general fund current account, it's telling me that this $500 is going to credit Evan Bernard's current pledge to general fund. If you want to adjust this, let's say we want to take this to $450, add another line item, it's going to find the difference between their total amount, create a new line item, and then you can pick what other giving account you want that money to go to. If this concludes Evan's gift, we're going to come down here at the bottom and hit Done Add to Batch. That's going to pop down at the bottom. My cursor is automatically back up here in the giver box, and I can then choose my next person that I want to add a donation for. And then you can use your keyboard entirely up here at the top. So by hitting the tab key, it's going to jump through the different sections. And if this gift is done, simply hit the end, E-N-D, the end key on your keyboard, and that will pop that gift down to the bottom. And then again, bringing your cursor back up to the giver box to put in your next donation. Okay? If you find you made a mistake, Let's say we actually do know the check number for Evan. We can highlight this entry, lower left, hit the edit button. That will bring that back up to the top. I can then type in the check number that I want to use, hit that end button, or hit the done add to batch button, and that will input and bring that entry back down. Okay. If you find there's something down here is just plain wrong and you want to delete it, there's a remove button. You can save the batch. So if we save this batch, say we get interrupted, we gotta get up, close out of here. The next time you're back in Church Windows, click on Enter Donations, and then any of your saved batches will be waiting right here for you. Simply select it. You can post it at this point if it's ready to roll, or you can hit Edit Batch, and that'll input it back into the Enter Donation screen, and you can keep entering those gifts. Okay. Down here at the bottom, you have some different information over here you can review. So if you stay to this Detail tab, it's going to give you the detailed information on this gift. You can hit the little plus sign and see more information. Or you can hit the Account tab, and that's going to organize this by your different giving accounts. So this is a nice way to be able to jump back and forth to kind of check yourself as you're going through and entering those donations as well. You can print a report down here at the bottom. You can get a summary by choosing show detail. There we go. Or you can get lots of good information and do the show detail or the hide detail. I think I said that backwards, but pretty straightforward. How much information you want to see or not see is here. And then two, depending on which tab you're on, whether it's detail or account, the report will change. So if you print from the account tab, it's going to be organized by your giving account. If you print from the detail tab, it's going to default to be organized by the entries themselves. Okay. You also have a running total down here as well. That's helpful to look at. Make sure things are being entered correctly. Right. Once your batch is complete, you have two options down here. You have a post and a post and transfer. If you use the accounting module and you want to be the one to transfer the giving to accounting, hit the post and transfer. Not only does that post this batch and create the transactions, it then will open up the transfer to accounting screen automatically, and then it will allow you to then hit the post button to send it over to accounting. Okay. If you just hit the post button, it's just going to post the donations, just like this button is, but it's not going to open up the transfer to accounting window. So if you don't do anything with accounting, you don't do the transferring, just worry about the post button. If you do the post and you want to do the transfer, do this one. Okay, pretty straightforward. We're going to hit post. It's going to verify that we are posting these transactions. Here's the total amount. Do we want to print it? Yes or no? That's up to you. If you like to get a posted batch report right away, you can say yes to print. Screen's going to empty out. That tells us that everything's been posted. So I'm going to close out of here. And I'm going to go up to the posted batches screen up at the top. You're going to see right down here, we have our date that we used. We did not use a batch code for this example. And then here's the total amount and some other information. If you want to print a posted batch report on any of your previously done batches, you can come in here, simply hit print selected and get your batch. All right, that is everything that I wanted to go over with you guys today.